our instrument. So we're going to talk about resonance, which is the color of each individual person's voice and sound. Juanita, you can join if you are 14 years old, but there is a special spotlight feature where I take your screen and I can share it with everyone else's. And for that particular opportunity, you're not able to be spotlighted. So unfortunately, I can't spotlight you, but you are welcome to participate. You're welcome to use the chat box, and you're welcome to be here. So I'm really happy you're here. Okay, so going forward, we're also going to talk about how you can balance your resonance through some vocal exercises, and I'll bring some of those up at the end of class. And for those of you who are over the age of 18, I really encourage you to volunteer for these exercises because it really strengthens the learning environment. It helps other people to learn from you, and it helps me to know where you're at as well so I can teach to that place. Okay, so is everybody here? Does that all sound good? I love getting like interaction in the chat box too. It's always fun. Yeah, cool. Well, let's get started. So the voice as an instrument. I'm going to first off introduce you to some of my other instruments at home. I have some favorites. So this is called a frog rasp, all right? So I'm going to talk about the force. So it means like my hand coming to go and hit the instrument. The sound is when the force, which is my hand bringing this object to come to the back of the frog rasp, touching this object, and this vibration and the structure and the space resonating within the frog to create a certain sound. Also, the material that this is made out of is going to be making a different sound than another instrument. And so I'm going to demonstrate with another one. My father-in-law actually made me this drum. It's pretty awesome, and it has a real leather on top. So this right here, we've got the same thing. We've got the force, my hand coming to hit the object, and then we have this object being struck, causing vibrations and sound frequencies to vibrate all throughout this space right here, which is the resonating chamber. So we have three things that are starting to cause this sound. And I want to now demonstrate how our voice, just like any other instrument, has got some of these three things going on. So the sound itself happens right here. Right in our throat, we have vocal folds that come together, and when they come together, our breath before them coming together. So the breath is basically the force. The breath is all in here. So basically, as we inhale, our lungs expand, and as your vocal folds come together, the pressure of your breath moving through that vocal fold closure is going to bring them apart, and the force is going to be bringing them back together. And so I'm slowing down the process of what happens here in our own instruments. But what will happen really quickly is that pressure will blow apart and bring together back those flaps. And our vocal folds are the flaps. Basically, they're not really flaps, they're folds. And they are coming together really quickly, and they are producing this sound. So that is where the sound is being produced. Then afterwards, that sound is being vibrated through our resonating chamber, which is our head, and the soft tissues, our bone structure, our nasal cavity. And there are many different areas in which that sound has the ability to travel through. Some of those parts of the head can change, like your tongue can move. That is more of a soft tissue and a muscle. And then there are some hard places, which the mask right here is a hard place. The bone right here, that's hard. So a lot of times when we're resonating in vocal terms, people will say, well, you want to bring that sound forward, or you want to bring it to the mask of your face. And sometimes in order to feel those sensations, people will say you want to bring that sound forward and you want to have more of a forward sound. But what it really means is that you want to feel those vibrating sensations take place in your face. You want to direct the sound as much forward so that you can feel those vibrations within your face, which is all very good for good vocal production and sound. So basically, that kind of sums up our instrument. There's a lot of anatomy that goes involved, including the breath, which we do have a lot of classes that are geared towards and directed specifically towards anatomy and breathing. So, for the sake of today, because of the material that we need to cover to help you to better understand your resonating space, we're going to stick to the anatomy that's kind of in that resonating space after the breath has already been, you have the nice breath, you have the nice posture. So posture is also a really important part of anatomy and singing. The whole body is really important. But I just want to address these things because they are important, but I don't want to emphasize them in this lesson. So first off, posture, the reason posture is important is going to affect your instrument. If you want to breathe correctly, you need to be able to have the space for your lungs to expand. So oftentimes people will say, you want an elevated chest so that your rib cage and your lungs are able to breathe into the full capacity. Then after that, you also want your spine erect, because if you're hunching over and you're like this, it's going to adjust your resonating space as well, and it's not going to give you as clear of a sound. So you really want to make sure that you stand in a very noble posture as you're singing. That's very important. So now I just want to leave the floor open for some questions about how sound is made in your body and this resonating space. I'll go in a little bit more detail about the resonating space, but if anybody has any questions right now, I want to leave it open for it. All right. So for now, I'm just gonna keep on trucking on, but if you have a question, I'm gonna stop and keep going. Okay. So as far as the resonating space, we've talked about some of the hard things that you don't really change. Your bone structure right here. Everybody's got different bone structure, so their resonating space. Okay, there is one question. What is the difference between singing with your head voice and your real voice? So your head voice, actually, the higher that you sing, so chest voice, I'm gonna do some two extremes, okay? So chest voice, you're gonna feel your sympathetic vibrations more in your chest. It's more of the lower, heavier sound of your voice. So this would be my chest voice. So I'm feeling more of the sympathetic vibrations in my chest. For your head voice, it's going to be a little bit lighter in quality. Like some things that you can do to get to your head voice is like hoot like an owl. Whoo, whoo, whoo. That is more of your head voice. And what the reason why it has those two names is because those sympathetic vibrations that are vibrating in your resonating chambers, they're causing those sensations in different areas of your face. So the whoo, whoo can sometimes it can make you feel like you have a head buzz. But I do want to add that everybody's structure and face and everything is different. So I encourage you not to get stuck on the sensations, but to also know that sometimes you might not feel the same sensations as another person. It's not a very objective thing. So sometimes people can feel head voice in a different area of their, they might feel it more in their lips, or it really, I don't want you to get discouraged if you're not feeling like a big buzz in your head. So that is a really important thing, because you have different pitches in your voice, and they're all going to feel different in your own sinus cavity and your own, basically your resonating chamber, your whole head space. So they're going to feel different. So moving on, we have the different parts of your resonating space that are adjustable or movable, that change that resonating space. Some of them are like your tongue. Each individual vowel has got a different place of your tongue. So some of the vowels like E, A, those are very forward. So your tongue will come a little bit more forward. O and U are a little bit more back. So that does adjust your resonating space a little bit. Another thing that adjusts your resonating space, The soft palate. Has anybody ever heard of the soft palate before? It's like a term that just flies around. You just hear it constantly, like flying through vocal terminology, like lift your soft palate. Sometimes if you're in choir, people will tell you to lift your soft palate. No. Okay. So let me explain this to you. So at the very back of your mouth, after you could feel it with your finger, but I'm not going to make everybody stick their fingers in their mouth. Sometimes people don't like to do that, but it's really helpful to do that because you can actually feel exactly where your soft palate starts. And it starts right after the hard part of the roof of your mouth ends, and you start to get a little mushy, soft area. That area is adjustable, and in singing that alters your acoustic space. So if you learn how to feel the sensation of it heightening and lowering, that can help you control the sound that you want to produce and the resonating space. So for instance, one way, actually, I'm going to give you 3 ways that you can feel your soft palate lifting. One way is to imagine that you're inhaling the scent of a beautiful bouquet. So after you feel that inhalation, you feel this opening in the back of your throat, and that is the lifting of your soft palate. Another way to feel this is to have a pre-yawn. So like you're about to yawn, hmm, oh, that is a way to feel it. Another way to feel it is as if you were about to laugh, like the pre-laugh. Yeah, that's another way to feel that sensation of that lifting in the soft palate. All right, so those are 3 ways you can feel the sensation of the lift in the soft palate. From Harold, is there a mid or mixed voice? Would that be more like a speaking voice, or is it just the head and chest voices? I'm new to singing. Yes, there is a mixed voice. So singing, so a lot of people will call that voice totally different things. I sometimes do call it a mixed voice because it is like the middle of your voice. And oftentimes what happens is that there are different muscles in charge of that really low part of your voice. So when your vocal folds are coming together and it's the low part of your voice, the low pitch, they're actually shortening and they're becoming fatter. That's what's creating that low pitch. And there is a certain muscle that is in charge of bringing them together on that lower pitch and creating that heavier sounding chest voice. As you ascend in pitch, your vocal folds are stretching and they're also coming together, but they're stretching and elongating. So during that process, during your head voice, there is another muscle in control of that. As you're going through the middle of your range, those muscles are coordinating to approximate the vocal fold closure in the right and healthy way so that your voice is unified throughout. Sometimes people will feel as they're beginning to sing, if they do some kind of a siren, that during that siren, or like the oh, so this is bringing both of those parts of the ranges together. That middle part of the voice is where you might hear a crack or you might feel one. And what's happening there is that you're flipping into a different muscle coordination. And the key is just to sing through that and try to balance that coordination of your vocal folds coming together and stretching and getting shorter. So I'm going to move on. That was a great question. You guys have been awesome in asking really great questions. So I'm really glad you're staying interactive throughout this whole process of explaining all of these things. So one thing about soft palate is it also controls the nasality of your voice. That's really important because for different styles of singing for opera, typically you're going to have a really high soft palate. Typically for musical theater, you're going to have a lower soft palate. No, it's not always those extremes. There are different styles, and there's also times where you want to lift your soft palate a little bit in musical theater. So it controls the nasality of your tone. So if I'm speaking like this, I have my soft palate lifted. It's a different sound. It's more open. So if I lower my soft palate, like really low, you start to hear more of that nasality in the voice, and that controls the nasality. So I want to introduce some exercises. So for resonance balancing, in order to feel that concentration and those vibrations in your face, nasal consonants are extremely effective because closing your mouth allows those sensations to be focused because they're not leaving your mouth. They're staying here, and you're feeling the concentration of those vibrations. And in order for you to feel those sensations, having a concentrated feeling of them is really, really good. So for the first exercise I want to introduce, we're using the nasal consonant okay? It's like M as in mom, and we're just closing our mouth and we're saying So I want to do a slide like I did earlier, like the siren. And just siren through all parts of your range. And then you should feel some amount of vibration somewhere in your face. And if you don't, that's okay. It's just starting to get used to these sensations. Does anybody want to volunteer to do that or demonstrate it in front of the class? Mary, yes. Does that mean that you did the exercise and you're feeling the vibrations or the sensations? Yeah, you felt the vibration. Okay, great. Well, that is the starting place, okay? But oftentimes we don't sing with our mouths closed. We sing with them open. So the next step is to bring in some vowels, okay? So it's going to be fairly simple. We're going to start with an me. So we'll start on like a speaking pitch. Me, 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 me. So can everybody try that and see if they can feel that it's continuing to come forward? Those vibrations are being basically transferred into speech or song. Me, me, me. Okay, so I'm going to move on to another exercise. I want to explain something that's a little unique about different vowels. I had explained earlier that the forward and the back vowels, they're a bit different with the tongue. And one of the things, oh, awesome. Arissa felt it. Awesome. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. I'm so bad with pronunciation sometimes. Juanita, yay. Okay, cool. We're all in a good place right now to move forward. Okay. So, oh no, Kevin didn't. Okay. So, did you feel the sensations on the M, Kevin? No. Okay. So, I'm going to say that as long as you are continuing to do this, okay. So, this is going to sound a little gross. Sometimes you won't feel the vibrations, but if you get a cold and you've got your breathing passages filled up with snot, sometimes it's really gross. I'm so sorry if this makes you sick. But the snot will sometimes vibrate. So sing when you're on that. You want to start to feel the vibrations in your head and your face. And just because you're not feeling it with this particular exercise, even maybe later on in doing it, you might feel it later on. So don't give up because it's basically, just cueing into these sensations. And whatever that feels like in your face, it like there's no judgment. It's going to feel different for everyone else. So it's just the way that we're made. So I'm going to move on just because I want to talk about you hope it feels good. Well, it's not like a massage. So it doesn't feel good in that way, but it doesn't necessarily feel bad either. It doesn't feel like, "Oh, this is painful." But actually, that is a good point because sometimes some of my students when they go up to their head voice, sometimes those vibrations can get really intense because of the sound frequency gets very high. And sometimes the feeling of having all of that build up of vibration in the head can get really concentrated. It can actually feel uncomfortable for some people. It can feel like a tickle. So it just depends on the person. So really quickly, balancing of frontal and back vowels are really important because Sometimes one can feel a little bit more forward and sound a little bit more drastic than the other. The other could fall a little bit farther back. So E and O. Part of creating this balanced resonance is balancing those two vowels, balancing the front vowels with the back vowels. And you don't have to do all of them, but E and O, would the vibration cause nasality? Not necessarily. The soft palate is what causes nasality. So the soft palate that we talked about, if it lowers down, it's going to cause a nasal tone. And the reason for that is because the sound now travels through the nose a lot more, because the soft palate is forcing its way down, and because it's forcing its way down, the sound is traveling more through the nose than it is the mouth. When the soft palate is up, it's traveling more through the mouth because it's lifted up. Okay, so briefly, the balancing of the vowels and with a nasal consonant. So we're combining all of these amazing tools to create this balance. I'm going to do a descending scale on a descending 5-tone scale with the words hungy. So hungy, it's a one word, sorry, with the word hungy. So hungy has an sound, which is a very backward sounding vowel. E is a very forward sounding one. And then the NG in the middle of it, is a very like nasal sound that can help to bring those sensations forward. So the way that this one would go is hungy, 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 hungy. And that's as simple as that. So it looks like we're from Samantha on Facebook. All right, where do I'm 31 and have been singing since high school. I was in my cantori group in high school. In college, I was the chamber group and day choir group. Right now, I'm in my church choir. Are you asking where you can sing at? I might need a little bit of clarification. So one thing I will add with choir voice and solo voice, they're going to be developing your voice outside of a choir is going to be entirely different. In a choir, you're going to be blending in with a lot of different voices. I know this wasn't your question, but I just thought I'd bring this up because a lot of times I'll be working with people who have been in choirs their whole life, and their own unique sound, they haven't developed it yet because they're trying to blend in with the entire choir sound because you're unifying your sound. So when you get out on your own, you can make some sounds that you cannot make in choir. So I just wanted to let you know that. What about for pop songs? So for pop songs, you can do a little bit of a combination. You don't have to have it really nasally. A lot of times for Broadway, you're going to have it a little bit more nasally. But for pop songs, you're going to have, kind of sometimes I like to lift my soft palate just a little bit because I feel like it helps me to get into at least the higher voice a little bit better and has a very clear and sometimes more speak-like quality to it. I don't have like a very nasal voice, but it depends on exercises. The hungy, it's hungy, the first one, Hungee. Yeah. So Ed I'm not. Ooh, okay, you're welcome. That's awesome, Samantha. Oh, I am. Yes, I am in choir right now. I'm actually depending on the choir that you're in, you're going to be singing different things. This kind of leads in to Kevin's question about for pop songs. So depending on the different styles of music that you're singing, you might have a little bit more of a lifted soft palate, more of a classical sound, and then more of a neutral soft palate or not as quite as high. And that's for more of like your gospel songs. You're also going to have more of a twang to it, a forward placement, and it's going to sound a little bit more speech like. So this is a lot of stuff, and I'm not going to be able to answer all of your questions right now, but I do want to suggest you checking out the Take Live lesson page. And if you're interested, all of you viewers from that are viewing from social media, I will paste a link here. Whoops. I'm so sorry. I don't have my link on hand. I'm sorry. I'll get it right now. So it's on the takelessons.com/live. That is how you sign up for some live classes. And there are so many awesome teachers and awesome classes. Oh, thank you so much for the encouragement, Mary. I really appreciate that. Think choir and solo voice, trouble going through for one and the other. Because I would say, well, I think I have a bit of a nasally voice. Oh, okay. So all of that is so good, and I want to address all of it. So Kevin, really quickly, um, so I want to address if you have a particularly nasal voice, you want to start bringing in the other extreme. So the reason why I don't like to make any one blanket statement on things like that, like, oh, for this type of music, you want a high soft palate, a low soft palate, because each person is so different. And that's why sometimes having that private instruction and working with somebody is so important, because they can identify the areas in which you're trying to grow and where you're at right now and help you to get there. Sometimes using extremes will help you to get the balance you want. So if you have a nasal tone, experiment more with lifting your soft palate. Feel that sensation of that lifted soft palate. I work with my husband and he has more of a nasal tone, and I have to keep reminding him to think of his lift and his soft palate, because if I don't remind him, he goes back into nasality, and he's not trying to. It's just the way in which he produces the sound. So then you're welcome, Mary Jo. I'm so glad that was helpful for you. You're having trouble going from one to the other. I really did too. When I was working on my solo voice with my instructor, it was really hard for me to switch gears and do one voice during one setting and the other voice during the other setting. But just be mindful that it's not going to be the same. It's going to feel different. And as long as you keep yourself mindful of those things, it will help you to develop the understanding in your mind that there's different settings for different voices and the way you use your instrument. And Samantha asks if you're asking in choir. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm really glad you all enjoyed this. I was hoping it would go well and I was going to be helpful for you. So I'm just really happy that you guys seem to be enjoying it. And then Kevin, I've tried yawning, but I'm not sure to lift it while singing. So yawning, the actual act of yawning, oh, you're not going to be able to do that while singing. So the pre-yawn is more effective for singing than actually yawning. It's kind of confusing sometimes, because if you're yawning and you're singing, it's going to sound very manipulated and manufactured. It's not going to sound natural at all. So you don't want that actual yawn to really affect it. Yes, Juanita, you can always improve your voice if you don't consider yourself a good singer. Oftentimes, people don't start off being great singers. They don't necessarily have to have talent. And you might not even realize it, or you may have been told sometime in the past that you suck at singing. And that, I don't like it when people use those kind of words to I don't ever think that that's helpful. That's tearing down people and not building them up. So if you've ever been told that in your life, please just take that information and throw it out of your mind, because it never, ever deserved to be put there in the first place. And if, like, right now, you have an instrument that you were born with, you might not know how to use it to its fullest extent, but that just takes practice. And you're able to work through that with, TakeLessons live classes. You're able to do it just like singing at your home, and there are tons of YouTube videos. And I just hope that you're able to find a way. How can you improve your voice? So I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to give you all of that information right now. I can only give you some tools right now. And implementing things that we've talked about today will help you. Also, taking classes on breath support, because that is really going to change everything. If you're able to breathe correctly and to support your sound, that's going to help you a whole ton with that. And also building your confidence is going to help you to improve your voice as well. So I just want to say thank you to you all. I've got to end class and head out of here. And I really, 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 yes, practice, of course, practice. Thank you, Raquel, for adding that. Yeah, and I got to head out. And for all of you that are viewing on social media, I think you can actually find information for my upcoming class. I think it's like in an hour and a half or so. It's really it's really soon. And I'd love to see you there. You can sign up for it there. There should be a link. And thank you all so much. I'm sorry for going over a bit. Thank you so much for staying here with me and being patient. And and thank you so much for all of the encouraging feedback. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you from all the Take Lessons community too. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.